Good day, brothers and sisters. I welcome you all once more to this session of the Kairos series. Today, we are going to be discussing a topic which is mainly historical. And this topic is a topic which tries to provide answers to a question that we are going to ask. And that question is, why does the Catholic Church have its center or headquarters in Rome instead of Jerusalem? So I'm going to be doing two videos to answer this question. The first part of the video is going to pay attention to the form of Rome as one of the reasons, and that is the video that we are going to do today. In the second video, we are going to pay attention to the Islamic influence or the Islamic conquest of the Middle East as part of the reasons that contributed to why Jerusalem did not eventually become the center of the Catholic Church, but instead it became Rome. So I urge all of us to listen and get enriched by the reflections that we are going to be having in this particular video. God bless you. Good day, brothers and sisters. I welcome you all again once more to this session in which we discuss the Catholic doctrine, Catholic faith from the viewpoint of Bible, Catholic doctrine, and history, the Kairos series. But today we are going to be answering a different question. And that question is, why does the Catholic Church have its center in Rome and not in Jerusalem? This question is a very important one because we know that the church was practically born around the area of the city of Jerusalem. If you read the New Testament, you will discover that the mission of Jesus took place in Judea, parts of modern-day Palestinian region. The mission of Jesus was Jerusalem-centered. There is no doubt about this because the geography of the activities of Jesus placed Jerusalem at the heart of his missions. Even when some of the activities took place outside the city, there is an impression from the geography of the New Testament and the even sequence of events that everything was building up to the climax which will take place in Jerusalem. Jerusalem, therefore, was the center that afforded Jesus the quality of audience he required for his message to be propagated to the Jewish religious world, and in fact to the entire world. This is in line with the missionary trajectory of Old Testament prophets like Jeremiah, for example, whose most important prophetic oracles were proclaimed in Jerusalem temple. Jerusalem was the center of mission, and Jerusalem as a center of mission remained important even after the resurrection of Jesus, because he instructed his disciples thus in Luke chapter 24, verse 47. He said, repentance and forgiveness of sins is to be proclaimed in his name to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. So, we would naturally ask the question, why didn't the church develop in history in such a way that the headquarters of the Catholic Church would be located in Jerusalem? Why is it now located in Rome? Now, let's continue to answer this question. Jerusalem is the center where the proclamation of the message of salvation was to begin. Right, all right. And the disciples understood this because after the ascension of Jesus in Luke chapter 24, 50 to 53, we are told that they worshipped him and then returned to Jerusalem with great joy. All the activities of the disciples of Jesus immediately after the ascension, even to the Pentecost event, were all taking place in Jerusalem. According to how the Acts of the Apostles is organized, we know that the mission of the proclamation of the message to all nations began from Jerusalem and then spread to other parts of the world, especially Europe. In fact, to illustrate the centrality of Jerusalem in this period, we can create an analogy between the most recent ecumenical council of the church and the first meeting of the church ever held. The most recent ecumenical council, the Vatican II Council, took place in the city of Rome between 1962 and 1965, while the first meeting of the church took place in Acts of the Apostles chapter 15 in Jerusalem around the year 50 AD, events separated by 2,000 years. We can therefore see that in the grand panoramic view of history, looking at these meetings, the center of the Catholic Church had moved from Jerusalem to Rome. Now, this is why the shift took place. The answer to this question of why we moved from Jerusalem to Rome is historical. Now, sometimes the activities of humans, including that of the church, is inescapably subject to the grand forces of history. There are a couple of events that acted as an engine in the process of the church's center moving from Jerusalem to Rome. And those are the destruction of Jerusalem by the Roman general Titus in 70 AD. Now, the second event, which we should consider, was the martyrdom of the two great apostles, Peter and Paul, in that city, in Rome. However, both events, the destruction of Jerusalem and the martyrdom of Peter and Paul in Rome, could be considered complementary in the process. We should not make any mistakes about this. Rome, before this point, was already the capital of the Roman Empire, and as such, had already started attracting a considerable number of Christians to the city already in the first century AD. Proof of this is found in the letter that St. Paul addressed to the church at Rome, which is part of the New Testament canon that we read today. The letter was addressed to the Church of Rome around the year 57 to 58 AD, which suggests that there was a considerable number of Christians already in Rome for Paul to have taken cognizance of them, in spite of the fact that the church was not founded by Paul. However, while the Christian population in this city may have been considerable, there was no evidence at this time that Rome was at the center of Christian life and communication at this point. The Acts of the Apostles is a good source of this knowledge, because we know that the most important meeting took place in Jerusalem at this point, as evidenced in Acts of the Apostles chapter 15. The meeting of the church in Jerusalem, for example. However, things began to change after Jerusalem fell after 70 AD in the hands of the Romans. It took only a few decades after the fall of Jerusalem in the hands of the Romans for Jerusalem to be replaced by Rome as the center of Christian communication and authority. After the fall of Jerusalem, Christianity began to evolve, increasingly separate from its Jewish roots. Central debates around this period in the 1st century, 2nd century, and 3rd century AD shifted from Jewish-inspired issues like circumcision to Christological questions which were tackled by the theoretical resources provided by Greek philosophy rather than Judaism. As such, the modern center of those days, the modern center to provide such intellectual resources would naturally have to shift to a metropolitan center like Rome, which could support such intellectual exercises of Christology and the theology of Christian life that was already developing. So thank you very much, brothers and sisters, for listening to this first part of our discussion on Rome and as the center of the church. Now, the second part of our reflection is going to appear in the next video that we are going to have in this kind of series. Thank you very much. God bless you.